Michael was a name you wouldn't remember from any headlines. No trophies, no viral fame. Just a man who, not too long ago, stood in the shadows of his own shattered dreams. His story didn't begin in triumph, it began in silence. In a small apartment, with overdue bills piling on the counter and job rejections filling his inbox. He once had a life many admired. A decent job in finance, a warm home, a loving partner. But life, as unpredictable as it is, turned everything upside down. A corporate layoff wiped away his position. Then came the breakup, then the eviction. In just 3 months, Michael went from stability to sleeping in his car, watching raindrops race across the windshield as he tried to stay warm. His savings dwindled, his friends faded, and the city that once held promise now looked like a maze of closed doors. But something inside him refused to break. Even when hope felt like a cruel joke, even when the only light was a flickering street lamp above the parking lot he called home. Every morning he got up, washed at public restrooms, wore the same suit, and walked to every job interview he could find. He faced rejection after rejection, but he kept going. Not because he was fearless, but because he had nothing else to lose, except the little dignity he was determined to protect. People passed him every day without noticing. But that didn't matter, because Michael wasn't chasing approval. He was chasing a promise he made to himself. I will rise again, no matter what. It was on a rainy Tuesday morning when something changed. Michael had walked into yet another office lobby, his shoes damp, resume folded neatly in his weathered briefcase. He sat across from a hiring manager who looked at him the same way dozens had before, with polite indifference, until Michael did something different. He looked the manager in the eye and said, "I know I don't look like much right now, but give me one chance. 1 week, no pay, I'll prove I'm worth it." There was a pause, then a nod. That 1 week changed everything. Michael worked like his life depended on it, because it did. He arrived early, stayed late, cleaned up after others, learned tasks outside his role. By Friday, employees began asking who he was. By the following Monday, he had a job offer. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. More importantly, it was proof. Proof that persistence, even when invisible, pays off. That character still mattered in a world full of shortcuts. And Michael finally had a foot back in the door. He took that foot and kicked down every obstacle in his way. Over the next months, he saved every cent, moved into a small room, bought better clothes. He started networking again, not for status, but to learn. He enrolled in online courses at night. Slowly, his confidence returned. But he never forgot the taste of hunger, the loneliness of the car, the humiliation of being overlooked. So he helped others. He began volunteering at a shelter, sharing what little he had. Not because he was trying to look good, but because he knew what it felt like to be forgotten. Michael wasn't special. He didn't have superpowers. But what he had was rarer than talent. He had the audacity to keep going. Michael woke up before dawn. The silence of the early morning was familiar now, comforting even. While the world slept, he worked. At first, it was just basic exercises in his living room, push-ups, squats, and shadowboxing. He didn't have fancy equipment or a coach, but he had something far more powerful: purpose. His arms trembled, his body ached, but he kept going. He looked at himself in the mirror, drenched in sweat, eyes locked in. "This is what it takes," he whispered. The words weren't for motivation. They were a reminder, a commitment. Every day, Michael did one thing that pushed him out of his comfort zone. Sometimes it was running in the rain. Other times it was saying no to old temptations, junk food, late nights, distractions. These choices, small and uncelebrated, were the bricks in the foundation he was building. He went back to the gym that had once closed its doors on him. He didn't ask for a membership. He asked for a job. Mopping floors, cleaning weights, taking out the trash. The manager hesitated but eventually agreed. "You can start tomorrow, early shift." Most would have been insulted, cleaning a place that once rejected them. But Michael didn't see it that way. Every time he wiped sweat off the mats, he was one step closer. Every day he observed the fighters, memorizing their routines, watching their footwork, timing, and discipline. On breaks, he shadowboxed alone in the corner. echoing what he had seen. Some laughed, others ignored him. But one day, one of the trainers, a former fighter named Leo, noticed him. "You've been watching," he said. Michael nodded. "And you've been working," Leo added. That day, Leo offered to train Michael. Not officially, not with gloves and gear, but with tips, small drills, and advice. Michael soaked it in like a sponge. "This is your shot," he thought to himself. "Don't waste it." The training sessions grew tougher. Leo didn't go easy on him. "No one's going to hand you anything," he said. "If you want this, take it." Michael learned to fight, not just physically, but mentally. He learned that a real fighter doesn't fear being hit. They fear standing still. He got knocked down during sparring more times than he could count. But he always got up, bloodied, bruised, but never broken. He started to change, not just in his body, but in his presence. People noticed. The same gym that once ignored him began to nod in acknowledgement. They saw something in him now, fire. One evening, as he was finishing his mop shift, Leo handed him a flyer. "Local amateur tournament. You're ready." Michael stared at it. Fear creeped in. What if I lose? What if I'm not enough? But another voice drowned out the doubt. What if you win? What if you are? That night, he didn't sleep. He laid on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Everything he had done had led to this moment. Every early morning, every rejection, every drop of sweat. "This is it," he whispered. "Time to fight." The day of the tournament arrived. The sun rose with an energy Michael could feel coursing through his veins. He stood in front of the mirror one last time, the flyer still in his hand. This was his moment. The doubts, the fear, they tried to sneak in, but he blocked them out. He had trained too hard. He had worked too long to be scared now. The tournament hall was filled with noise. Loud cheers, the pounding of gloves on pads, the sound of fighters sparring. Michael walked through the crowd, past the hopefuls, the seasoned pros, and the hungry competitors. He felt out of place at first, like an outsider. But then he remembered Leo's words. "If you want this, take it." He stepped into the ring for the first time. The lights above him blazed down, and the crowd was silent. It was just him and his opponent, a tall, lean fighter with a smirk on his face. Michael didn't flinch. He had faced worse. This was just another battle. The bell rang and the fight began. Michael was quick on his feet, avoiding the first few punches. But his opponent was skilled, too skilled. He landed a solid punch, and Michael's vision blurred. For a moment, it seemed like everything would come crashing down. But Michael didn't stop. He dug deep. With every punch that landed, he remembered why he was here. For the first time in his life, he truly felt alive. Round after round, he fought. His body screamed for rest, but his mind pushed him forward. Each moment was a test of his resilience. His opponent was stronger, faster, and more experienced. But Michael had something he didn't. Heart. The final round came. Both fighters were exhausted, bloodied, but neither willing to quit. With everything he had left, Michael charged. His opponent hesitated for just a second. That was all Michael needed. With a swift jab and a perfectly timed hook, he knocked his opponent down. The referee counted. 1, 2, 3. Michael's heart raced as the crowd held its breath. 10. The bell rang, signaling the end of the fight. Michael had done it. He had won. Michael stood in the ring, his arms raised in victory. But inside, something had shifted. It wasn't just about the win. It was about the journey, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the lessons he had learned along the way. The crowd cheered, but Michael felt a deep, quiet satisfaction. He had done what he set out to do, but he knew this was only the beginning. As he walked out of the arena, the manager of the gym approached him. "You've got heart, kid," the manager said. "You've got what it takes." Michael didn't respond at first, but he smiled. He had worked for this moment, but it wasn't the victory that mattered most. It was the transformation. The next morning, Michael went straight to the gym. He didn't celebrate the win. He got back to work. But now he had a new confidence. He was no longer the boy who mopped floors and dreamed. He was the man who had proven himself. Leo saw him walk in, a new fire in his eyes. "You're ready for the next level," Leo said. "It's time to take this seriously. We're going to train harder, smarter, and more focused. It's not about winning one fight, it's about becoming a champion." Michael nodded, but he knew what that meant. It was time to put in the work, not just for a title, but for something deeper. He wasn't just fighting for a trophy anymore. He was fighting for his future. The following weeks were the toughest yet. Michael trained harder than he ever had before. He woke up earlier, ran longer, and pushed his limits in ways he never thought possible. But the more he pushed, the stronger he became. His body adapted and his mind sharpened. He fought in local tournaments and won every single one. He started to gain recognition. People began to notice him, not just as a fighter, but as someone who was relentless in his pursuit of greatness. He didn't just fight opponents, he fought his own limitations. The gym began to buzz with excitement. Other fighters started looking up to him. They wanted to know his secret. They wanted to train like Michael. But Michael knew that his secret wasn't just in his training, it was in his mindset. He had learned to embrace the struggle, to welcome the pain, and to see it all as part of the process. One day, Leo called him into his office. "It's time," Leo said. "I've been watching you. You've got what it takes to fight at the highest level." Michael's heart skipped a beat. This was the opportunity he had dreamed of, fighting professionally. It was everything he had worked for. But then, the weight of it all hit him. The pressure, the expectations, the sacrifices. For a moment, doubt crept in. What if he wasn't ready? What if he failed? But then, Michael remembered everything he had overcome. He wasn't the same person he was when he first walked into the gym. He was a fighter. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steady. He had come too far to turn back now. Michael's professional debut came quickly. The lights, the crowd, the cameras. It was overwhelming at first. But when he stepped into the ring, it all disappeared. It was just him and his opponent. He had trained for this moment, prepared for this fight. He wasn't nervous. He was focused. The first few rounds were intense. His opponent was experienced, fast and powerful. But Michael had something his opponent didn't. He had heart. The fight was a blur of punches, dodges, and calculated moves. Michael's body moved on instinct. It was the culmination of all his training, all the sacrifices, and all the pain. The crowd roared as the bell rang for the final round. Michael's vision was blurry, his body was exhausted, but he wasn't about to stop. He wasn't going to let this chance slip away. With a final surge of energy, Michael landed a clean uppercut, and his opponent collapsed to the mat. The referee counted, and Michael's heart pounded in his chest. When the count reached 10, the crowd erupted into applause. Michael had won. He stood there in the center of the ring, looking out at the crowd. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't jumping or yelling. He was calm. He had reached the top, but he knew the journey wasn't over. This victory was just another step in his ongoing pursuit of greatness. Michael had done it. He had become a champion. But as he stood there in the ring, looking out at the cheering crowd, he realized something important. The fight was never really about the title. It was about the journey. It was about everything he had learned along the way. The struggles, the setbacks, and the victories, both big and small. He had become the man he always dreamed of, not because of the trophies or the medals, but because he had refused to give up. No matter how hard life got, no matter how many doors were slammed in his face, he kept going. And that, more than anything, was what made him a true champion. Michael knew this was just the beginning. He would continue to fight, continue to push himself. Because for him, the greatest victory was never the one in the ring. It was the one over himself. The one that proved he could do anything if he didn't give up. And if Michael's journey moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of your own strength, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for the next chapter. The story doesn't end here. It's only just beginning.